Welcome to Chautauqua People. My name is John V. My guest today is Meg Pickard. She's a long-term resident of Chautauqua County. Meg serves as Director of Recreation for Chautauqua Institution. In this capacity, she oversees the Chautauqua Golf Club, Tennis Center, Sports Club, Sailing Center, 4 beaches, softball field, and newly established CHQ Trail. Meg holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and has done postgraduate work in business and policy studies. She's a long-term advocate for health and well-being, leading to higher quality of lives and relationships. Meg is an active hiker, cyclist, and kayaker. How did you make your way to Chautauqua Institution?
Well, I was sitting in my office at the Jamestown YMCA, and the job posting came across my email. I was about to share it outward with my staff, because most of my staff at the time were working part-time for us and looking for jobs of that nature. And then I thought, you know what? I'd like to give this a try, see if I have what it takes.
Had you come to Chautauqua as a younger person or done programs?
I had. I used to train as a dancer in my youth.
Okay.
And I spent a summer at Chautauqua Institution in the dance program.
The dance program. And do you have any specialty in dance?
Somewhat.
Okay.
That was my first love.
All right. Can you tell us about some of the other places where you worked in Chautauqua Institution? Besides Chautauqua Institution and YMCA. I understand those experiences are beneficial.
Correct. So I worked in the steel industry for a number of years, and then I worked for the City of Jamestown Police Department as the administrative assistant to the Chief of Police. And then I worked for the Lucille Ball Desi Arnaz Center as an administrative assistant. I had worked for the YMCA for, at that point, at least 10 years as a part-time employee, doing weekend security or teaching group exercise classes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the executive director approached me about a position as a wellness director, and I ended up taking that position full-time, year-round.
Position as a what?
Wellness director.
Wellness director. Oh,
Correct.
My goodness. Okay. we can't be too overwhelming about that. They all had different experiences, didn't they?
I did. I've had a lot of different
I
experiences.
mean, you go from Lucy Ball Desi Arnaz to Jamestown YMCA. What a big change. Now, tell me how COVID has affected various facilities where you've worked.
Well, it's been devastating for the fitness industry. About 25% of the fitness facilities that existed prior to the pandemic have closed their doors permanently, and more are expected to follow suit. That would be the in-person. And some of those have reemerged virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Some have not. I would say that golf is exploded
Really?
since the pandemic. Yeah, well, it was deemed essential about 2 weeks after the closure, after March 16th. 2 weeks later, we were opening back up, and since people didn't have anything else to do, they started playing golf, which has been great to see. And then tennis opens shortly thereafter.
At the institution here.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had good fill for those along the way.
We have.
And I thought in the long haul, both of those sports were receding.
They were, yeah. So it's nice to see a new generation getting connected. And now that people are working at home virtually, telecommuting, things of that nature, they are able to take advantage of both sports.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Now, I understand then that a good number of the facilities at Chautauqua Institution took a pause for the pandemic, such as the beaches. Can you go through some of those facilities and tell us what the recovery plans are?
The beaches specifically are going to be a challenge, and that has to do with the lifeguard shortage that started pre-pandemic. There's been a lot of changes to the industry There's also health issues with regard to the health of the lake, right? We're always dealing with increased amount of seaweed, blue-green algae is an issue. So I would love to tell you that we're going to strive to have 3 of our 4 beaches open next year. I don't know if it'll happen. It'll depend on staffing levels, whether we're able to meet that goal, but that is my ambition. In recent years, like this past summer, I can tell you that our beach, Children's Beach, was the only beach that was open all summer on Chautauqua Lake. Long Point attempted to, but they had lots of algae issues that created challenges for them.
So what are the headliners for Chautauqua Institution? What are the goals? Which 3 of 4 to get open?
So University Beach, Pier Beach, and Children's.
And Children's. Okay. And down there, a club that would?
Club is is under a different director, so Club would be open. Hines Beach would be the beach that I would not be opening next year.
Got it. And tell me about training lifeguards. That has always been kind of an issue of curiosity to me.
Yeah, so you have to be a good swimmer. You have to go through a swim test, and then you go through a couple of long weekends. I know because I went through it this year. In attempting to get even one beach open, I had to go get my lifeguard certification. I was not a swimmer up until about 2 weeks before the Chautauqua season. I started working with Coach Rollinger, who's a Hall of Fame coach here in Chautauqua County, and he got me up to speed in 2 short weeks, and I'm so grateful to him and the rest of our lifeguarding staff for getting me to that point. I know that the Buffalo Niagara Y is one of the biggest certifying sources in all of Western New York. In a normal year, they would certify about 150 lifeguards. This year, they did 30.
Wow.
In a normal year, they would employ 90 of those lifeguards. This past summer, they employed 30. So it's a big change for everybody. The city of Buffalo was not able to open, I think, I don't believe they were able to open any of their beaches or their pools.
Wow.
So they're outdoor pools.
So that's just immensely more complex than we would have thought, wasn't it?
It is. It is. It's very challenging.
Now, tell me what facilities are open this time of year.
At Chautauqua.
Yeah.
So the golf course just officially closed on November 1st. However, we leave the flags up so that if people want to walk the course, they can still play. But it won't be staffed in the bag barn or in the pro shop. And the fitness center located inside the Turner Community Center is open year-round and serves both sides of the street, if you will, both the Chautauqua crowd and the greater Chautauqua County region.
Can we take a look at what goes on in there?
Sure.
I think Mr. Chuck has some pictures he might show us, and you're going to have to get me straight on them.
Yeah. So this first picture is an area where we have a bunch of different equipment on the gymnasium floor. In the background, you can see medicine balls, one of our steppers, a heavy bag, a speed bag, 2 therapy tables, and an abdominal chair, and then an area just to do stretches or engage in exercises like push-ups.
What goes on the therapy table?
So therapy tables, they were actually donated to us by a local physical therapy organization.
Okay.
They used to come on site and do summer programming for us. They're no longer able to provide that service, but they wanted to leave behind the tables. And the tables are now utilized by our personal training staff primarily with their clientele. They're especially folks that might be recovering from hip or knee surgery. Maybe they have lower back issues and getting down on the floor is challenging for them, so they use the therapy tables.
So they're getting used for their basic general purpose, are they not?
Correct.
That's good to go. Let's see what else you got up there.
This is our Pilates studio. So in the background, you see what's called a Cadillac, 2 reformers, 2 chairs, a couple of mats, and off to the left-hand side, you can barely make out our barrel ladders.
Okay.
So this is all equipment that was created by Joseph Pilates many years ago. And he created a series of exercises first that were done on the floor, on a mat, about 500 exercises. And then he started creating apparatus, which is what you saw in that studio. And in a normal summer, we would have 3 Pilates trained personal trainers who work out of that studio with clientele. And they have very high level education. And it's a great exercise for anyone who really wants to take their workout to the next level, but it also has very therapeutic opportunities too.
So who are most of the users then at Chautauqua?
A lot of dancers love Pilates, so our dance students quite frequently take advantage of it. Gymnasts will take advantage of it, but also the older adult population really tends to lean towards it, especially with the guidance of a personal trainer to get through the exercises that can be tweaked, if you will, or modified to suit their needs and their goals.
Without ill feelings about it, we just make these adjustments, and that's the way to go.
It is.
Okay, what else you got up there?
This is the Turner Pool. This picture actually is a birthday party that was ongoing, I believe. So as you can see, lots of kids having a great time in the pool. Our pool also, on a regular basis, is used for lap swimming. And so we have 5 lanes reserved for lap swimming and 1 lane that's a little bit wider, about 7.5 feet wide, that is reserved for water exercise. So if people want to go in with aqua bells or noodles, they can. We supply that equipment.
What are the normal hours for lap swimming? Is that
Right now, it's 6:30 a.m. until I think it's 9:30 a.m.
Okay.
And then we open up again later in the day. This is Monday through Friday, I should
Right.
say, at 4:30 and go until 7:30, I think it is.
Okay.
And then weekends, it's 7 to 9 on Saturdays.
Okay.
Right now, we're not open on Sundays. Again, we're still dealing with that lifeguard shortage.
Right. Now, do you have to make a reservation, or do you show
You
up?
do.
Okay.
So call 716-357-6430
Okay.
during our fitness center hours of operation, and we'll get you set up.
Okay. And normally, how long is the reservation good for? Like an hour or a half hour? Or?
You get 50 minutes of swim time,
Okay.
and then there's a 10-minute changeover before we allow the next group in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to go.
Yeah.
Do you give any swimming lessons?
We do. Coach Rollinger works for us, Bill Rollinger, who I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And Karen Williams is our other coach. Both of them are great. In the summertime, we have a couple more that join us
Okay.
as demand increases for that swim lesson.
And the swimming lessons are taken mostly by what age group?
Again, it's all over the place. We get young toddlers who parents want to introduce to the water, and then we'll go right up through athletes that may be training for a triathlon or other master swimming event, and through to older adults who may be new to water, maybe never learned to swim as a child and now want to engage in that activity.
I had somebody who told me I need to get in better swimming shape and join him to swim across the lake this summer. I don't.
Oh, that's a great goal.
So that may be the case. Now, are there accommodations made with these facilities for people who are handicapped?
Yes, we do have accommodations. We have a special chair lift to get someone in the pool, if that's what you're talking
Yeah,
about,
that's part of it.
specifically about the pool. The majority of our facility is one level, right? Unless you're going to work out in that Pilates studio that is on the second level, but we do have an elevator to get up to it.
Okay.
So we can make accommodations, and we do. We do have folks coming in with walkers and wheelchairs.
Do you do any formal physical therapy, or is it just sort of what's?
We don't at this time.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier, we used to have a local physical therapist who came on site just during the summer
Mm-hmm.
for a few hours. We do have one of our trainers who is a physical therapy assistant, in addition to being an athletic trainer, so he does have a higher level education.
Right. So you can accommodate somewhat of a range of people then, if you have a
We
higher level
certainly
trainer.
can. And normally your doctor would let you know. Usually you complete your physical therapy, and then when you're released from that, they'll say, then try to find a good personal trainer to work with.
So if, let's say somebody's had a stroke, period of time in
Mm-hmm.
physical therapy, and then come on, let's get in the pool and do some swimming and the like.
Yes,
And
if that's what,
that's what's called for.
yes, correct.
And I always thought swimming is such a good exercise for.
It's a wonderful exercise, a great cardiovascular exercise,
Right.
and much different. Like if you're a runner, a marathon runner, getting in the pool and learning to swim is a huge adjustment. You suddenly realize, boy, I don't have the lung capacity that I thought I did. It's very challenging, or can be.
I've completed one marathon,
Well, congratulations.
and
That's one more than I have.
the Japanese have an expression that's appropriate. He who has never climbed Mount Fuji is once a fool. He who has climbed Mount Fuji twice is twice a fool. So nobody who knew me closely saw me how bad I looked coming across the line at the end, but indeed, I've done it. Okay, now let's get a little more serious. Recreation is a big deal. How has it changed in recent years?
Well, for one, the game of pickleball has really been storming the last 2 years,
Yeah.
and really charging ahead. It is the fastest growing sport in America today.
You better tell me how's pickleball played. I've never done that, and I'll bet a lot of our viewers haven't either.
Well, it's a mixture of different racket sports. So the court is smaller than a tennis court. It's closer to the size of a squash court or a racquetball court.
Mm-hmm.
It's played with a paddle that's a little bit bigger than a ping pong paddle,
Mm-hmm.
but similar in nature, with a wiffle ball. Or what looks to be a wiffle ball.
Mm-hmm.
There are different balls you can get now. As the sport progresses, it's modifying, but the actual playing terms are much easier to learn than, say, tennis, which is pretty complicated for a lot of folks, which is why it probably fell out in the first place. Why is it? Because it is more challenging and requires a lot more agility. Pickleball slows the sport down just a little bit, and because it's a smaller court that you're playing on, it's a little bit easier for folks that may not be as agile or have as much cardiovascular capacity as someone who, say, plays tennis on a regular basis.
Yeah. And what are the typical ages of pickleball players?
Well, it's actually all over the board.
Really?
At this time, it's about 20% in each age group. So represents the core players now, which is a unique dynamic that just happened this
Right.
past year during the pandemic.
Right. Now, let's talk for just a minute about putting you on the spot here and talk about the future. And we see some sports come and go.
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, Chautauqua had the best Olympic training facilities for what sport?
I don't know.
It's called roquet,
Oh,
which at the beginning of the 20th century was a popular sport, cousin of croquet. I've noticed, I was down there last summer at Sharp Field.
mm-hmm.
If you look way out to the over the first baseman's head, there were the roquet things locked out. across the street, you know where I am, and it's right down from the parking area. What are your predictions for the future?
Wow. Well, I'm trying very hard to bring pickleball to Chautauqua Institution. We
Okay.
did try it in the Turner Gym for a while,
Yeah.
and it was successful for a little while, but it ended up being a challenge, right, with all the different programming that we offer
Yeah.
there. So now I'm trying to work on a business plan to bring it to the tennis center specifically, because I want to make sure that we don't just have that supportive environment, but we also have the supportive relationship. So instructors on site who can assist people, facilities that might be needed, bathrooms especially, right? Those aren't necessarily available, either one of those, down at the coil courts where we currently have some hard courts.
Mm-hmm. I know where I live, we have some tennis courts, and several of them have been marked out for another sport, which I assume was pickleball. But I've never gone and stopped and watched the game and talked with people about that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good deal. And,
Mhm.
and we think sports should change, and we understand that. And it's not change for change's sake, but like pickleball, as you described it, appeals to a different cohort of folks who might not have been active.
Yes.
And that's immensely important. I got a question for you I love to give to most guests, and it gets wrapped around a bit, and then we're going to let you tell us what we haven't covered along the way. But here's my favorite question. If a young Chautauquan comes to you and expresses an interest in developing a career in recreation administration, what would be your advice?
Start at the ground level, start learning about the different recreation venues that exist, and then head to college, especially if they're looking to go a management route. They want to be in charge
Got it.
eventually.
Got it.
And get a good basis in budgeting, right? Because that's going to be ongoing.
So
Budgeting and marketing,
take accounting, marketing, finance,
yes,
those sorts of things.
correct. Yep. You're going to need it.
Do they need to master some sports?
Not necessarily, but they should have a firm understanding of what it takes to play a sport that they're overseeing, whether
Got
it's
it.
tennis or golf.
Got it. And go from there.
Correct.
How long does it take somebody to work up, let's say to be director of recreation, city the size of Jamestown or something? Is that a long haul?
It was for me, but I probably didn't do it at a straight arrow. As you
Yeah.
know, I was in the steel industry for a while, police.
Yeah, yeah. And then had success with each and could balance the books and the like and those sorts of things.
Yeah, it was really fitness that brought me into the recreation realm.
Okay, okay. So what else do we need to cover? Let's talk
well-
about health and wellness. That's what we want to. Tell me what your thinking is about this. And if you had some Chautauquan who came to you in the summer, and let's say it's a young person like me who's been 39 and holding for a long period of time, talked about being depressed and unhappy,
A lot of us are struggling with that right now.
what would your advice be?
Get active, right? Find a physical activity that you can enjoy and engage in a routine, a regularly scheduled routine is what you really want to strive for, not something that's going to be hit and miss.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be anything. I mean, we have a wide variety of group exercise opportunities at Chautauqua Health and Fitness. Many locations do. In our region, we're very blessed in that regard to have those opportunities. If you're not necessarily into a group, when you buy a membership at our facility, you also get up to 2 opportunities to work with a trainer in an orientation capacity, where they'll give you some general basic guidelines, what's going to help you achieve your goals. But group exercise is really kind of leading the way right now. We've been so socially isolated to gather together again in these small groups, small pods, if you will.
About how big is one of those?
At a minimum, it's usually 5 or 6 people, and then depending on the class, it might be up to 20 at Chautauqua Health and Fitness. Some
Mhm.
locations have larger classes, more space than we do. Some might have more intimate settings. But that allows you an opportunity to have some social interaction in a very safe, nurturing environment.
Okay. And what activities would you probably start with?
It's really going to depend. If they're deconditioned, if they've not been exercising on a regular basis, I might encourage them to try yoga or Tai Chi or water exercise. Water exercise is great if you're someone who's dealing with arthritis issues or maybe hip or knee replacement. Because of the buoyancy of the water, you have less impact. And then, if they're further along, if they consider themselves more an athlete, someone
Mhm.
who's been working out on a regular basis, but maybe just needs a little social connection, I would encourage them to give our rush hour class a try.
What's that?
So it's a HIIT class, a high intensity interval training class, taught by Stephanie Bukowski, one of our trainers. And so you might, on a given day, it's always different. It's always a surprise, but it's very athlete friendly. But it's also bite-sized for somebody who maybe is not quite as athletic, but has aspirations to try something different, right? A little bit of strength, a little bit of agility, a little bit of cardiovascular.
Now, for somebody who might be watching this, we are in our off season, so it'll run. The program will run not initially during the season, although we'll make that into the beginning of the season. Somebody thinking about coming to Chautauqua, how do they get into that kind of program? And they may come back and say, "That's really what I need to do."
Yes. So at Chautauqua, you have two ways to enter into a group exercise class.
Right.
One is to go directly through the fitness center, right? You can reach out to us at fitness@chq.org.
Let's repeat that. Fitness.
Fitness@chq.org.
Got it.
That's an email that will come directly to my computer, and I
Okay.
would respond. You can look on our website, fitness.chq.org is the fitness center page, if you will, or pages of the Chautauqua Institution website, where you can find a lot of information, particularly in the summertime. And you can give us a call, 716-357-6430, and we'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Got it. So it's a deal, isn't it?
It is.
And the prices are basically lower than what you get if you went off on the street somewhere, as I understand it.
We try to keep our classes affordable,
Got it.
right? So they're geared towards the local Chautauqua County resident that's
Yeah.
here year-round,
Yeah,
rather than more affluent
that's great.
communities.
That's great. And for so many Chautauquans, this is just one more part of it that we don't realize. And
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
And this has been great fun. And do come back.
Thank you. It's nice meeting you.
Good to meet you.